or losing hope or wondering if we'll make it through. And somehow women dig deep into that place of strength. And
We're live. Save it. Save it.
oh,
We'll
yes,
talk more.
okay.
Yes. I know. We're excited. We can't, once we get together, we just can't wait to talk about it.
It's
But
true.
so this is where I'm going to share onto my FaceTime page, and you can share too if you want. I know we don't have a link that people join us, but feel free to share into your Facebook page or even to the Refugee Film School page. But hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday of the second day of our interview on March about resiliency and about tolerance, endurance. It's a little heavier because this month is Women History Month, right?
Yes.
And we've been through a lot to get here, a lot of perseverance, a lot of resilience to get here. And we're so proud to have guests here to share with Sarah and I their stories about how they facing the world and keep on going and not stopping. So Rhonda, who is a great friend, somebody I love dearly for the last 3-4 months, we have been seeing each other almost every day on Zoom. Thank goodness for Zoom, right?
Yes, we didn't know until a couple of months ago that we had been lifelong friends.
Yeah, it's like I think October somehow. But so just like Sarah, I mean, people that I really met through more online internet than in person. I have never met Rhonda yet in person, and I can't wait.
Yeah,
So,
it's going to be the best group hug ever, I
oh
tell you.
my goodness, yeah, I can't wait. So yeah, we know that we're early today because yesterday we were late because there's things. So we fluctuate a little bit, but here we are. And Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Yeah. So as many of you have known about Sarah's story and my story, and I think at some point that we are a little bit of tiring telling you, but we figure that we have to because many of you probably have stumbled into our conversation for the first time. So here we are,
Yeah.
broken record. Sarah, let's go.
Let's go. It's my job to kick off our show.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
So I'm going to dive into it real quick and not to go too much in detail. So again, my name
You
is
can check out her website for more. She has a whole book, so go check out her website. But
yeah, I'm Sarah M. I am from Cambodia, but before I left Cambodia, I struggled to survive. I almost didn't make it because while I was attending college, the communists took over our country. And that's the time when I was away from my family and everything. So when they shut down the country, when they turn our life upside down, inside out, and destroyed our country, I just struggled to survive. But finally, I made it. I made it through because of my love for my family and through escape. So I had to find my way to escape as out of the adversity, out of the captivation, and also out of the country. So I have been here for 40 years and rebuilding my life. That's when I found out that I had to rebuild to build my resilience, right? In order to rebuild something, you have to have that resiliency. So that's my first step to do that. That's all I want to share today. And if you like to know more, this is my book, How I Survived the Killing Fields. It's on my website, sarahm.com.
thank you, Sarah. And a lot of time, you think petite women cannot endure? Meet Sarah. and me.
Tell
We
you,
are
the
super
small ones
petite.
are the feisty ones. The small ones are the feisty ones.
But to get out of the killing fields is not something small task that anybody can do it. And my story is not from the jungle. We fight the pirates. I want to say I fight the pirates, but I didn't. I'm just like scared, a little kitty cat. Um, but we survived through. And I fight the pirates of life. I fight every single pirates in my life, metaphorically. And that is resilience, I think. So that's why I want to share with you our story. So my story started out in Vietnam. I was born as a very timid girl in the family that is very strict and disciplined. My father is the king of the universe, and we were not allowed to do a lot of things that I would love to do like any normal teenager, but we were not allowed. So I go through life with a very passive voice. I did not want to speak up. I just want to blend in and be invisible and settle for whatever corner that I can allow to have. And I didn't know, but when my father died, my resiliency grew like quadruple. And I found a place that where slowly, gradually, that where I can project my voice. And
Mm.
that's my story. You can also find my story on TEDx, on my website, leatran.com. And I have a book that the first part of my life that I wrote in the memoir, how I actually get out of the condition that I was born in to a place that where I control my own destiny. And that's the first step of my resiliency. And that's what I want to share. But today, Rhonda Hull is my guest, and Rhonda, I don't want to take her thunder away, but she had a near death experience at 17, and to fight back and to go on and to take that wisdom to share with us. That's what she's here for today, to share with us. Welcome, Rhonda.
Thank
How are
you.
you?
I'm well. It's so wonderful to be here. And, I listen to your stories and I think of, it being Women's History Month, and I think of all of the different stories of women, and uh, how we're called to grow where we're planted. And
Mhm.
I listen to your stories and think of my growing up and think, oh my goodness, I wasn't faced with the same challenges that each of you were faced with. And yet, for some reason, Lee, your life was your life and your circumstances were yours, and Sarah, yours were yours. And we're here together. And by you having those experiences and being here to share them with me, that's somehow how all the puzzle pieces fit together. It's not that I don't know that we're called to compare experiences and say, oh, yours was worse
Yeah.
than mine. It, we all are planted right where we're meant to be to grow. And each circumstance, I believe, is the perfect one to offer us the opportunity to grow and evolve and change. And I've, I feel so blessed that I had challenges in my life, in growing up. They weren't as physically demanding and challenging as each of you experienced. And for some reason, they were mine to evolve and grow. And then at 17, I had a near-death experience. I nearly drowned. And it was at a time where, now it's far more common for many, I wouldn't say for most, but for many, to come forward and talk about a near-death experience. Many are far more aware of quantum physics and spirituality, and how science and spirituality collide, and somehow how those puzzle pieces fit together. But my experience at that point, people weren't talking about it. So I had this very strange experience. And when I tried to share it, then I got very clearly at that point, you just, don't talk about it. What happened is I got caught in an undertow. I was with my boyfriend, who became my husband and who later became my ex-husband, but and my sister and another friend of ours. And I was caught in an undertow that the turbulence was just resounding, the water going every which way. It became so
In an
overwhelming.
ocean?
It was in the ocean. It was in Hawaii. So, it was a
Okay.
very beautiful
Wow.
place to nearly
Yeah.
die.
Ooh.
And the water and the sound was so overwhelming, and that panic feeling and not knowing which way was up is where I was very logically trying to figure it out. Swim across the current, which way are the bubbles going?
Mm.
And I really got to that point of this may be the way you're going to go.
Wow.
And in that moment of surrender, see, I can't even talk about it in words. In that moment of surrender, the noise stopped,
Mm.
the color stopped, the panic dissolved, the ability to be something physical matter stopped. And I became just pure. That's why the lettering behind me is part of my art, but it's what I experienced.
Beautiful.
Just pure, unconditional love, where I no longer had a physical form. I was what I believe we all are. And in our physical form, in our cognitive mind, we can only see and feel these five senses.
Mm.
But my experience is that we're so much more. And I was thinking, Sarah, of your last name, I am, and it's the abbreviation in English of I am. And that is what we are. We are that I am. We are all that love. We are all that connection. At least that's what I experienced. And I know that it was many years later that I started reading more, maybe 3 or 4 years later, that I was curious enough to start reading other people's accounts of their near-death experiences. And for a long time, some people would discount it and say, oh, it's because lack of oxygen. Different people would have different forms of near-death experiences. It just became a very fascinating thing for me to understand, or at least research in my mental way. I know what I experienced that day, and it was a real evolution for me over time to take it from that place of just surviving with that information to a place of thriving with that information. It's like, for the longest time, I like you, one of the things that I was wondering as you were both sharing about your experience, I know that I have worked with many women who have experienced great tragedy or great loss in their lives. I do a lot of coaching, and I've coached and counseled women from teens on up to on their deathbeds. And I know that recounting that experience takes you to a place of reliving that experience. And I know that both of you, people become so curious about wanting to know what you experienced. And yet you have to somehow do what happened for me, is where you separate from the experience of it to a place of observing it, or not being in it, but being of it, in order to share the wisdom that you gained from it. So I was wondering what it's been like for the two of you to have to share your story, and how you both moved from being so raw with it, with that
I
information, to being able to share.
There is so much to unpack here. There's so much. And let me speak a little bit and then I'll pass it to Sarah. First of all, I want to acknowledge Rhonda is a PhD psychotherapist. So she's not just any ordinary person who experienced that, but she take it to the next steps to be able to understand it and help other people, particular women. I think, people from cradle, what do you say? From cradle,
From womb to tomb.
from womb to tomb. There you go. That's really a great way to describe it. So second of all, I really want to acknowledge that that you have shared with us that experience, that many of us, that each of us have this unique story, and it doesn't make any less trauma from one setting to the next, because trauma is what caused you anxiety. Trauma is trauma. If you get really trauma, not able to go to a prom, that is a trauma, because you have built
Yes.
up so much. It doesn't have to be in the killing field or in the oceans,
Yes.
or anything. A trauma is somebody who experienced something to the extreme, that emotionally disturbed, and that they could never ever forget that moment. And I
Yes.
think that is trauma.
Yes.
So we all have our unique way of coping with trauma. And the third is, I want to say also that, so that's a beautiful, because God create every single one of us have a different type of trauma, so we can understand each other. So we're not having the same thing, because that would be so boring that nobody want to learn anything from anybody.
Well, and if we're all one, we
Right.
all are benefit of that experience.
Right.
And I'm so glad you said, Lee, that we have many near-death experiences throughout our life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And each of them, we all have our own spiritual
Connection, right?
connection and indoctrination and belief
Right.
systems. But it's where that whole way of knowing that birth and death happen throughout a lifetime, and that I haven't figured it out. The truth is, we all face that. It's often not the happiest things that teach us the most in life.
Right.
I don't necessarily like the system, but the truth is that it's the difficult
And the
time.
lesson here is a split second of you in Hawaii underwater. It's the same split second for me in the ocean in the boat.
Yes.
I mean, that split second can change our life
Change
course
like that.
completely,
Yeah.
from a breathing human person to a corpse that's floating on the sea. And,
Yeah.
and it could be a vacation. It could be a run away from a communist. It could be, in the pool. It doesn't matter. It's still trauma.
Yeah.
So
I also experienced near-death experience, because I was extremely ill during those time, and I was now I did not have access to the medical facility, so I was extremely weak, barely breathe.
Yeah.
So I was barely alive at one point, a few
Yeah.
times. So
So
Yeah.
that remind you every time you eat a piece of food, you remind me, those are the trigger points. For me, I get PTSD and I get trigger point very easily too, to bring me back to many of those moments. And I'm sure you have those moments going back to 17. And even though that's many, many years later, Now, my question to you is, when you surrender, when you know that you cannot fight the currents, the bubbles, and you just kind of let go, what happened?
That's the moment of surrender, that when we get into the flow, it's where I surrendered. I had this incredible experience that, and then the next thing I know, my boyfriend and my sister and my other friend are dragging me up on the shore.
Okay.
And I, I didn't, truthfully, I didn't want to come back. It's where what I experienced,
Wow. So peaceful.
it was so profound
Mm.
that I still don't in many ways feel like I fit in my body,
Mm.
because what I experienced was so expansive.
Oh,
And
wow.
experiencing the physical challenges that come with being human, it
So
feels so
have you been changed since that moment? Your philosophy, your perspective of life, everything?
yes, it's where I know that love is always the answer.
Mm.
It may seem like it can't possibly be, but it's where as a result of what I experienced, I know that even in the hardest, saddest, most difficult moments, that that life is bittersweet, that
Mhm.
it's like seeing that one little flower amidst the crack in the sidewalk. It's why during the Holocaust, Viktor Frankl could see that the good
Mhm.
that amidst the horror, it's where from those difficult circumstances we come to a choice point where we have the opportunity to either see ourselves as the victim or become that resilient person who thrives.
Yeah.
And ultimately, even if we take the fork in the road of I can't go any further, we still, I believe that we fulfilled our purpose from the very first breath we took.
Mhm.
Life, the rest of life, is just to enjoy the lessons, even the messy ones, and that there is no there. We have already fulfilled our purpose. We can, work hard. I don't even like that term. It's like we follow our calling, and as long as we're letting love lead to the best of our ability, not somebody else's perspective of what that is, but our own, even if we fail, if our intention is to lead with love, then we're doing our work here. We're enjoying this 3D reality that comes with that ability to experience the good things that we judge as good or bad. Life is that paradox, but there is always a blessing hidden in the difficult times. And when I surrender rather than resist that something is difficult, that's when somehow the opportunity for the miracle to appear, or the new opportunity to trust that, having worked now with people who are facing a difficult diagnosis or in the dying process, I know that with birth comes death, and with death comes rebirth. I see it every day when I look in nature, the
Yeah.
cycle of life.
The seasons too, right? I mean,
Yes,
everything get its
exactly.
season.
And thank God spring is just about here,
So
So
is that why you're going to the psychology, and is that why that make you choose what you're doing as a profession?
yeah, up until my near-death experience, I was raised Catholic. Up until my near-death experience, even though I was dating and had a boyfriend, I was on the fast track to becoming a nun.
Oh,
With
wow. I didn't know that.
with my near-death experience, it really took me out of a religion
Mm,
a specific religion, and I experienced what pure spirituality is.
wow.
And
Okay.
and so from that point, I had to kind of redefine what that meant. My parents, although I was raised Catholic and my mom was a non-practicing Catholic and my dad was a non-practicing Methodist, I was raised in that Catholic belief, but love really was my takeaway from that. And from the nuns, the greatest thing that I took away from Catholic school was calligraphy.
Mm.
But on,
That you're drawing art, right? Behind you, that's what
yeah,
your art.
and my dad, on the day that I graduated from college with love in his heart and with the best of intentions, he said, "Sweetheart, you're the first person," talk about resilience, you're the first person who has graduated from college. I punched the principal in the nose when I was in 8th grade, and that's as far as I went. So you're the first one in our family who's graduated from college. My degree was in art. He said,
Uh-huh.
"But now I hope you find another way that you're going to make a living, because you're never going to make a living as an artist." So that's where my art kind of got suppressed, and I went into education, which led me to psychology.
Yeah.
And somehow it all had purpose. It wasn't,
Right.
but it wasn't until very
It's just
recently
beautiful. It's
that I
beautiful.
pulled my art back out and dared to start talking about my near-death experience, and overtly rather than covertly letting everyone know that love is my religion, as if, love is my foundation of who I am. And to me, it really is the answer to every question.
That
Wow.
was just beautiful. And I love the way that you draw your strength from that resilience over and over and over
Thank you.
through life. So is
Yeah.
that your pool of clients, mostly women who are near death and they want to experience the free um, of I don't know how to say it, like the free of being afraid of accepting the next phase in life?
I because of my experience, I don't see death as something to be feared.
Mhm,
I see it as something that at its core reminds us to live fully.
mhm,
And I think that we're not really afraid of death. I think what we're more afraid of is everything that you both went through that led up to that fear of death. It's everything that takes us to that place of we're not in control. It's what COVID has done for all of us, where there's something there that we can't control. And control is just an illusion anyway. But
yeah,
I love to work with people who want to live fully, even if they're not facing a death imminently. That's the one thing that we all share in common. We're all born, we're all going to die. And so those people who want to chew on life's big questions, and who many, it's oftentimes women,
mhm,
um, because somehow, women are the ones who get up with the babies in the middle of the night, and they know, uh, there are some men who get that part, but women get that part of you. Sometimes you just have to go far beyond what you ever thought you possibly could in
mhm.
order to be a mom. Um, I think women are wired for that, even if they don't physically give birth. We have that oxytocin rather than that adrenaline
Yeah,
version of
that
strength.
oxytocin is beautiful. I mean,
Is
that's where you
it?
cuddle and that's where you yeah,
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 yeah.
those chemical that release in your brain. But anyway, I want to ask Sarah something. Were you afraid when you were crossing that jungle? I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm just, trying to kind of bind all this thing together.
Yeah.
Were you, Sarah?
Crossing the jungle to get out from
Well,
the.
were you afraid of death
Uh,
in a sense that cripple you? Because I'm sure you didn't.
No, I
right?
never thought of that. I never, I never thought of that.
Same here. When we were in the refugee camp, when we were in the boat, we were afraid of it, but we know that is no other choices. We just kind of give in a sense that we're just going to keep plow through.
That's
If it
right.
happened, it happened. We pray about it, but we're not frozen to the point. And sometimes when you were stuck in the situation that you need to deal with it, you kind of forget that how dangerous that you were doing it.
You know, I think a near-death experience, whether it's me nearly drowning or each of you in your experience, or like you were saying, facing a surgery or a divorce or a diagnosis. I think
Yeah.
all of those take you to that place where you're struggling with not living in the past or not fearing the future. It
You're
brings
too busy fighting. You have
you're
no
right in
time.
the present moment. And
Right.
honestly, there is no there.
No.
The past has already
Right.
I think it's Mark Twain who said, I've experienced some really horrible things in my life, some of them which actually happened. You know, it's like we
Yeah.
spend so much time
Yeah.
in our brain fearing the past or anticipating the future. But when you're in one of those survival moments,
Right.
you are so present that you are in the
Just do
now.
whatever you need to either get out or done.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And if you go to just survival,
Right.
then you're not going to make. It's like
Right.
if a lion is chasing you and there's a big ditch that you have to cross, you are not thinking, if you think about the lion's going to get me, the lion's going to get me, then you're not going to make it across the ditch. You got to
Yeah.
say, I'm getting to the other side. I'm
Right.
getting to the other
And that's
side.
what I call resilient, because
Yeah.
you just keep go on and doing it until you know that you have maxed out your capacity.
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
Yeah. It's like right now, uh, um, uh, for a while, I've really been challenged with chronic migraines, and I've really been working with those. And what this conversation has benefited me is like I've been so focused on the conversation that the headache becomes a secondary thing. So it brings us to the present moment. It's like
right.
when we can remember, when we
Mhm.
can remember that we are love,
Mhm.
we are only right here in this moment, that the past, although it seems so real, doesn't exist. And the future, it's yet to come. The future depends on the quality of our presence, our
Yeah.
thoughts, our being, where we are right now. And you guys took all of the blessings and put in some compartment the worst part of what you experienced so that you could share a phenomenal example of resilience. And, you know, I got a really amazing experience as a result of my challenge, my near death. So to me, it's like I got the cotton candy version, and you guys had to really
There's no
stretch
cotton
me.
candies here. There's no poster child. There's no cotton candy. I think we are fighting the same battle, and I'm really glad that we have a chance to share it with everyone, and we have a chance to talk to other people who have the same experience. Different, I mean,
Yeah,
same feeling, different experience.
yeah. And it's a magnet, you know,
Right.
it's a way that those people who are curious to make their lives the fullest possible are attracted to those who are resilient, those who are choosing to thrive. And that doesn't mean that we always have it figured out.
Right.
It just means that we have the the determination and the spunk and the resilience packed in these little tiny bodies that, the three of us are in.
Right.
When I stand next to my oldest grandson, who is like 6'4", he's like, it's like I feel like I'm standing in a hole. But
I wouldn't want to stand next to him. He will not find me.
but you know what? They all know that what they call me Tutu, which is the Hawaiian name for grandma. That they know not
Yeah.
to. Don't mess with Tutu. So
That's lovely.
yeah,
I am so enjoying talking to you, and we can talk a long time. But I know
Yeah.
Sarah have some question that she want to ask you.
yeah, Sarah.
No, I just want to ask you, how do you say to people to live a life, to live life fully? So how do you describe to them?
Yeah, it's to, as best you can, be here now. I know that so often we take our emotions and hold them like we're holding a beach ball under the water. We need to find our safe place to let those emotions come out, rather than try to uh, make life always pretty. It's like dare to experience the challenging parts, creating around you those who um, can, we call it sister joisting. I have dear friends, like when in construction, when there's a beam that's sagging, they take another beam and joist that beam.
Yeah.
And if that's not strong enough, you joist it from the other
Right.
side. So I find that women in particular, I think it's harder for men, but women come together and joist one another.
We love to share. I think
Yeah.
women love to share, especially if
At
you
the-
have struggles.
Yeah, and at the same time, the truth is that the answers aren't outside of us.
Hmm.
They're really inside. And
Yeah.
so the greatest adventure of resilience and thriving is to know that we can stand alone.
Mm.
And so I think that is the human adventure, to be aware that everything outside of us is a reflection. So I always encourage people to dare to embrace and surrender to what is in the
Yes.
moment, rather than fight.
Yeah.
Mm,
That's beautiful. That
wonderful.
is so beautiful. And I'm so loving everything you said. I think that it just showed that we have a lot more than we can offer. I mean, that women are the strongest bond and the most flexible, the most resilient
Right,
people in the planet, because
right,
they got to cater to the kids, to the
right,
outer force, to the husband, to themselves.
right. Well, guys are kind of wired to fix things. What can I fix?
And I
And
think guys are either really hard or they can break easily. So I mean,
yeah,
we are just the flexible plastic.
yes, exactly. We're bendable, resilient, adaptable, and we hold the space. We become, like guys ideally provide the container,
Yeah.
and women are the space. We
Right.
hold the space.
Yeah.
Many years ago, when I was 50, I went on to what was called warrior camp. And it all by myself, like talk about wanting to thrive. It was one day was hiking to the top of a mountain. The next day was doing a ropes course. The next day was facing guys who were in big padding. They were going to come at you as if they were going to rape you, and you had to figure out how to
Oh my
fight
God.
off. And like, could I find my voice? Well, no, I couldn't. But as soon as you said my daughters were behind me with my, at that point, only one grandson, that's when I could rediscover my voice from having been molested along the way,
Oh my
that
gosh.
to have that voice be freed, you know,
Mhm.
to be
Yeah.
able to express. And then the last day, oh, and you know, in the evening time, we had to walk on hot coals, you know, it was the whole thing. And then the last day was a sweat lodge that was supervised or run by one of the elders of the indigenous of Pemberton, British Columbia, where this was held. And in setting it up, he said, it was men and women, and he said to the men, this sweat lodge is dedicated to the women for their resilience
Yeah.
and for their ability to thrive. And your job is not to understand them. Your job is to honor them from that place that the indigenous know that
Yeah.
women are the creators,
Right.
that men provide the seed, but that women give birth. They are the creators. And so that message was so powerful to me. And I came home knowing I don't want to be a warrior. I am love. I don't want to fight. I don't want to resist. I know that life provides those opportunities where I have to dig deep
Yeah.
and find that, but I know that love is where my power is, not through hate, not through you know, so what we've been going through is such an evolution
Right.
right now.
Well, this is very, very intriguing. But I know we have to cut short because we are going over time. But for the final thought, I want to say that Sarah and I probably will never ever pay to do those kind of things because we have done them all without paying.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
But I think for the longest time I wouldn't pay. But now I think I'm warning out. I might have to do something like that just to test out my resiliency again. But kudos to you, Rhonda, for being here, for using those philosophies to help many other women, and for being a dear friend to me for the last 3-4 months. I really appreciate you. And again, this is a month of resilience, of um, endurance. So we're going to share a lot more of those stories with our audience for this month of March. And kudos to all the women in this world. Kudos to us. This is the month of women history, and we really want to amplify what we have been going through and to honor a little bit of what bring us here to this moment.
We are women's history.
Yes.
We
Yes.
are women's her story. We are
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's it. If anybody have a last word that they want to say, and we're probably going to sign off pretty soon.
Oh, just if I can be of service to anyone, you can visit me at
That's right.
Rhonda Hull,
And you
HUL.
also have a book.
.com. Yes, I wrote a book called Drive Yourself Happy.
Okay.
And, you know, if I could write the new edition, it would be Thrive Yourself Happy. So,
Oh, wow. Love that. Love
Yeah.
that. So yes, please visit Rhonda's website, and I think rhondahull.com, right?
yes.
Yes. So connect with Rhonda, and if you happen to have anything or anyone in the family that's going through what she has been described, please reach out to her. She's a beautiful sister. She's a beautiful soul, a beautiful human that she will find a way to help you to cope with whatever that you're going through, as far as from womb to tomb.
Yes. Thank you.